You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. "Hey, Luke," Tyler said, grinning wide with a beer in one hand and a mustard-stained paper plate in the other. "If Kara ever leaves you for her high school sweetheart, you gonna cry into your wrenches?" The whole circle, her cousins, her uncles, even her dad, erupted in laughter. I felt heat crawl up my neck. My burger froze halfway to my mouth. Then Kara, standing right next to me, snorted and added loud enough for everyone to hear. "Not like he's good in bed anyway." That line didn't just land, it detonated. Somebody choked on their drink. Her aunt gasped. One of her cousins tried to muffle a laugh and failed. Kara didn't flinch, just sipped her hard seltzer like she'd said something about the weather. I didn't say a damn word. I just raised my burger like a glass. Message received, and right there, the energy shifted. You could hear it, like somebody turned the volume down on the whole backyard. The fake laughs died. People suddenly remembered their cups were empty or needed to check the grill. Kara blinked, like she hadn't expected me to say anything. Quick note, before we go further, share which city or country you're watching from. I set the burger back on my plate, finished my beer in 2 long swallows, and walked straight through the crowd toward the side gate. I didn't slam anything, didn't toss my plate. I just left. Her dad mumbled something behind me. Maybe my name, maybe not. Nobody followed. I drove back to our house with the windows down, even though it was hot. The air felt better than anything I'd breathed in months. The second I got inside, I grabbed 2 duffel bags and stuffed them with what I needed. Clothes, toiletries. The emergency cash from the kitchen drawer left the rest. I pulled out the manila envelope I'd had ready for weeks. Breakup paperwork already filled out, just missing a few signatures. I wrote one line on a sticky note and stuck it on the envelope before leaving it on the kitchen table. Hoped the joke was worth it. No keys, no long goodbye. Just walked out with both bags, got in my truck, and didn't look back. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even mad. I was done. I drove all night, but my mind didn't go quiet. Not yet. It went back to when things were different. Before the jokes, before the silence. Kara and I met at a tire shop off Route 12. She was waiting on a rotation. I was under someone's busted minivan, covered in grease and half out of patience. She made a dumb joke about the vending machine eating her dollar and laughed at her own punchline. I liked her right away. We moved in together 6 months later. She had a half-dead cat and a trunk full of books. I had a toolbox and a hand-me-down couch with 1 working cushion. The apartment was a 3rd-floor walk-up in Joliet, with cracked windows, stained carpet, and walls thin enough to hear the neighbors fighting about weed money. Rent was $700 a month, and we split it right down the middle, even when she got laid off for a while. Our fridge was never full, but we always made space for cheap beer and leftovers from her mom. We had arguments over stupid stuff, laundry, dishes, toothpaste caps, loud ones. But it always ended the same way. Her crawling into my lap, saying, "We fight because we care." I used to believe that. She called me her anchor, said I kept her steady when her head spun off in 12 directions. She had a temper. Hell, so did I. But when it was good, it was good. Inside jokes, stupid dances in the kitchen. She used to write little notes on the bathroom mirror with a dry erase marker. "Don't forget you're the best thing in this dump," was one I still remember. We used to be a team, but slowly, so slowly I didn't see it at first. She started pulling away, stopped holding my hand when we walked places. I'd reach out, and she'd pretend she didn't notice or say her hands were cold. She laughed more at her phone than anything I said. If I told a story at dinner, she'd nod along but wouldn't look up. The fights didn't stop, they just shifted. Fewer words, more sighs, longer silences. She started doing this thing where she'd walk out mid-conversation, like I wasn't worth finishing the thought with. I tried harder. That was my first mistake. Planned date nights with her favorite diner food, got her those chocolate-covered pretzels she used to love. She barely glanced at them, made her coffee the way she liked, half milk, cinnamon on top. She drank it without saying a word. I fixed every damn thing in that apartment. Replaced the busted faucet, regrouted the shower, even rebuilt the table her dad gave her that had a busted leg. She used to light up when I fixed stuff. By the end, it was like I was invisible. I'd say, "You good?" And she'd say, "I'm fine." But her eyes were somewhere else. Her smile, when it came, was automatic, like she'd rehearsed it. She got quiet around me, but lit up around other people. Especially her brother, when he came around. I didn't mind at first, figured they were close. But even before Tyler moved in, I started noticing it. Her whole energy shifted when I walked in the room. Like I was the buzzkill, the afterthought. I remember one night, I came home early with tacos from her favorite food truck. She was on the couch, laughing at something on her phone. I sat next to her and handed over the bag, waiting for the usual kiss or smile or something. She just said, "Thanks," and kept scrolling. Didn't even open it for 10 minutes. That's when I realized I was begging for scraps, begging for attention from the same woman who used to call me the only person who made her feel safe. But I kept pushing, tried setting up a weekend getaway, something small, just the two of us. She said she was too tired. I offered to reschedule. She never brought it up again. One night I asked her flat out, "Do you even want to be with me anymore?" She said, "Stop asking questions you don't want the answers to," and walked away. That was about 6 months before the barbecue, and every minute from that moment on, I stopped feeling like a man and started feeling like furniture. Useful, quiet, always there, until I wasn't. Then came Tyler. Kara's younger brother showed up on a Tuesday night with 2 trash bags full of clothes and a story about how his ex went psycho and kicked him out. No warning, no phone call, just a knock on the door and a sheepish grin. Kara hugged him like he'd returned from war. "He just needs a few weeks," she told me, while dragging a mattress into the guest room. "He's got nowhere else right now." I kept my mouth shut, just nodded. By Friday, he'd taken over the living room. His crap was everywhere. Hoodies on the couch, empty soda cans stacked on the end table, Xbox humming non-stop. He'd fall asleep with the TV blaring, and I'd wake up to reruns of Family Guy at 4 a.m. He'd park his junk-ass Jeep halfway into the driveway, making me move my truck just to get to work. I mentioned it once. "Dude, chill," he said, laughing. "You act like I'm squatting here." I didn't laugh back. He didn't notice. Couple days later, I came home and found him in my garage. My garage. I'd built that space over 3 years, tools lined up perfect, workbench clean, every socket and wrench where I needed it. Tyler was in there setting up foam panels and cheap microphones on folding tables. He looked proud. "Gonna start a podcast, interviews, real talk, that kind of thing." "You could have asked," I said, gripping the edge of the door. He shrugged. "It's temporary, man, just until I get back on my feet." Kara backed him, of course, said it was good he had something creative, like I was the asshole for wanting my own space back. That's when she started acting different. Late-night laughs behind closed doors, dumb inside jokes I didn't get. She and Tyler would binge trash TV until 2 in the morning, giggling like teenagers. I'd come in from the garage, greasy and tired, and she wouldn't even look up. I'd crack a joke at dinner, nothing wild, just trying to connect. And she'd give me that tight, polite smile people use when they want you to shut up. Tyler would jump in with some story about high school, and suddenly she was full of energy again. I stopped sitting with them after a while. Standing at the counter most nights. One night, I made steak. Real effort, not just frozen pizza. She picked at it, said she wasn't that hungry. An hour later, I caught her and Tyler crushing nachos on the couch, laughing with their mouths open. I stood there a second too long. She noticed. "What?" she said, annoyed, like I was the one out of place. "Nothing," I muttered, walking off. That was the night I realized I was just extra weight in my own house. Not even competition, just background noise. He wasn't just her brother anymore. He was her audience, her favorite one. Even the dog started choosing him over me. A few days later, I asked Kara if she wanted chicken parm or stir-fry that night. She didn't even look up from her laptop. "Whatever you think is best." She said that a lot lately, for dinner, for bills, for weekend plans. I could have suggested setting the house on fire, and she would have nodded the same way. We were both home, but never in the same room, unless Tyler was there. I tried talking. I mean, really talking. One night, I sat down across from her while she was scrolling. "Are you happy?" She didn't blink, just smirked without looking at me. Why ask questions you already know the answer to? It landed like a brick, not loud, just heavy. I sat there another second, waiting for her to say something else. She didn't, just kept scrolling, thumb tapping the screen like it mattered more than me. I walked out, didn't slam the door, didn't say a word. I just walked. Tyler's friends started coming around after that. Loud ones, all backwards hats and fake deep voices, talking over each other and calling everything legendary. They took over the kitchen table for poker night, like they'd lived there for years. One even used my coffee mug and left it in the sink with a crusted ring of dip spit at the bottom. Nobody invited me. I'd walk in from the garage, greasy, sweaty, beat, and hear them all laughing, Kara right there with them, louder than I'd heard her laugh in months. I'd lean in the doorway sometimes, waiting to catch her eye. Nothing. It was like I didn't exist unless I was in the way. So I started staying in the garage longer, pretending to be busy. I'd wipe tools that were already clean just to kill time. Sometimes I'd drive to the gas station just for a coffee and sit in the lot for half an hour. I wasn't even mad anymore. I was past mad. I was empty. She stopped asking where I was going. Stopped checking in. Even the grocery lists became one-word texts. Eggs, toilet paper, dog food. I still fixed stuff, old habits, the sink, the garbage disposal, the leaky hose out back, but I stopped telling her when I did. Didn't matter anyway. One night I came in late, smelled takeout on the counter. Chinese, my favorite. She didn't save me any. I just stared at the empty cartons, then walked back outside. I couldn't explain it at the time, but something broke in me right then. I wasn't her partner. I wasn't her anchor. I was a background extra in her life. And even worse, I didn't fight it. I just started disappearing. 2 days later, we were at Kara's dad's annual barbecue. Her family showed up loud and hungry, like they always did, hauling folding chairs and coolers like it was a tailgate. The backyard smelled like charcoal, sunscreen, and cheap beer by noon. I did what I always did, set up the drink table, made sure the grill worked, kept things running, while the rest of them drank and shouted over each other. Her Uncle Ray forgot the propane again, so I made a run without being asked. When I got back, nobody noticed, not even Kara. She was laughing at something Tyler said by the porch, drink in one hand, other hand on her hip, like she didn't have a care in the world. I kept busy, carried trays, refilled ice, flipped burgers. I didn't care about being the center of attention, but damn, it would have been nice if someone acted like I existed. By late afternoon, people started crowding around the grill where I was working. That's when Tyler showed up next to me, a beer already halfway gone, voice loud enough to carry over the music. "Yo, Luke," he said, grinning like he was about to say something real clever. "If Kara leaves you for her high school crush, you gonna cry in your shop, tough guy?" It got real quiet for half a second, just long enough to register the hit. Then the laughter came in waves. Cousins, uncles, even Kara's dad chuckled behind his solo cup. And before I could even process the first punch, Kara followed it up. Wide smile, no hesitation. "He's bad in bed anyway." That one didn't land, it exploded. People cackled. Somebody actually slapped their knee. One of her cousins whistled. Someone dropped a plate. I didn't look around. I didn't have to. I felt it. And right there, I knew I was done. I raised my burger like a glass. Message received. Silence. The laughter died instantly. Like someone cut the power. Her dad blinked. Her mom stared at the grill. A couple cousins shuffled back toward the cooler like they forgot their drinks. Kara's face froze. She opened her mouth like she wanted to walk it back, but nothing came out. I took a bite of the burger, chewed it slow, and set the plate down on the edge of the grill. Then I drained the rest of my beer and wiped my hands on a napkin. Nobody said a word. Tyler tried to crack a nervous laugh, but it died halfway out of his throat. I walked across the yard, past her aunts and cousins and the folding table full of side dishes. No one stopped me, not one person. I opened the side gate, stepped into the driveway, and got in my truck. I didn't even turn the music on, just drove. By the time I hit the first stop sign, I already knew I wasn't going back. That night, I packed 2 duffel bags. I took what I needed, some clothes, my old boots, the folder with my passport and documents, a few tools from the garage. I walked through the house one last time. Kara wasn't home yet. Or maybe she was upstairs pretending not to hear me. Either way, I didn't care. On the kitchen table, I left a manila envelope. Inside were the breakup papers, already filled out, just waiting for signatures. On top, I stuck a neon green post-it note. Just 7 words. Hope the joke was worth it. No keys, no final argument, no goodbye. I shut the door behind me and didn't look back. I drove through the night with no real plan, just west. The radio stayed off. The only sound was the hum of the road and the occasional creak from my overpacked duffel in the back seat. Around dawn, I crossed into Arizona, somewhere near Kingman. I hadn't been through there in years, not since a National Guard training rotation. Hot, dry, quiet, nothing but road, rock, and sky. That's what I needed. No people, no conversations, no more half-assed apologies hiding in sarcasm. I kept going until the cell signal dropped and gas stations started looking like abandoned sheds. That's when I found the place. One road. A faded sign that said Dell's Auto and Salvage. A sun-bleached flag out front, torn at the edge. The shop looked like it hadn't seen a coat of paint since the early 90s. I pulled in just as the sun was burning through the morning haze. An old man in a faded Marine Corps hat stepped out of the side door, wiping his hands on a rag. He didn't say, hello, just squinted at me like he was trying to read my whole life in 10 seconds. You looking for work or trouble? He finally asked. Neither, just looking to disappear. He snorted. Plenty of room out here for that. Turned out Dell was a retired mechanic, lived out back in a trailer bigger than the shop itself. He had another trailer tucked behind the garage, bare bones, no Wi-Fi, no AC. But the water worked, and the bed didn't collapse when I sat on it. Cash only, you keep the space clean, I won't ask questions, he said. You fix cars? I nodded. Been turning wrenches since I was 16. He handed me a set of keys and walked off without another word. Just like that, I had a place. No lease, no paperwork, no expectations. The days settled into a rhythm fast. Wake up with the sun, brew gas station coffee on a hot plate, open the shop, oil changes, busted tires, old farm trucks with fried brakes. Nothing fancy, nothing digital, just hands-on work and the occasional thanks from someone passing through. I ate canned chili, grilled cheese, scrambled eggs. I drank water straight from the hose and sat on an upside-down bucket while the sun went down behind the hills. The first week, the silence chewed at me. Every time I sat still, my brain tried to rewind, replay old fights, re-edit old moments. I kept waiting for my phone to buzz, even though I'd powered it off and tossed it in the glove box. But after a while, the quiet started to feel less like punishment and more like air. Nobody asked where I'd been. Nobody asked what I was thinking. Nobody needed anything from me. I wiped grease off my hands and it stayed off. I cleaned tools and they stayed where I put them. I cooked food and nobody left it cold on the counter. I slept with the windows open, listened to coyotes instead of screaming matches, watched stars I forgot existed. I didn't feel healed. I didn't feel whole. But for the first time in years, I felt free. A few weeks into the silence, I walked into the public library in town. 1 room, 2 computers, a cracked water fountain, and a clock that ticked way too loud. I didn't even know why I sat down at the screen. Habit, maybe. Curiosity. Part of me just wanted to know if I still existed back there. I logged into an old email I hadn't touched in months. One I used for bills, warranties, that kind of stuff. Inbox was flooded. 47 unread messages, all from Kara. First one was just the subject line. You think you're better than everyone? Next few weren't much better. Wow, you're a real coward. You embarrassed me in front of my family. Congratulations, you broke my dad. I didn't click them. Didn't need to. The preview lines told me enough. By message 13, the tone changed. I just want to talk. Please. Can we fix this? I miss you. You can't just disappear. Then it turned again. You left me with everything. We're drowning. You need to come home and clean this up. That one, I clicked. Inside was 3 short lines. You were handling the taxes, the payroll, the vendor accounts. None of it makes sense without you. Dad's losing money. The shop's in the red. Tyler doesn't know what he's doing. I leaned back in the stiff plastic chair and stared at the screen. Nobody had asked me to handle those accounts. I just did it. Quietly. Efficiently. Like I did everything. Kara's dad didn't understand credit terms. Half the invoices were double paid before I stepped in. I got him on a digital ledger, organized payroll, negotiated new rates with two of his suppliers. He never once said thank you, but it kept the business alive. Now it was crashing. Another email from Kara came in live while I sat there. "The house is in default. You really left me with nothing?" I didn't reply. I scrolled down to a message from Natalie, a mutual friend who never picked sides. Subject, heads up. Inside, "I don't know where you are, but things are going sideways fast. Kara maxed out all her cards trying to cover things. The shop's about to fold. Her dad's blaming Tyler. Tyler's blaming everyone else. I heard they had a screaming match last week about you. Not sure what you did, but you broke something big. Just thought you'd want to know." I sat there staring at that sentence. You broke something big. No, I left something broken. There's a difference. I clicked through one last message. It was Kara again. A wall of text, half apology, half guilt trip. Saying she didn't mean the joke. Saying she was just trying to keep things light. Telling me her family turned on her. That Tyler wasn't as helpful as she thought. She ended with, "I was so used to you always fixing things, I forgot what it looked like when you stopped." I didn't type a single word back. Just logged out, stood up, and walked past the librarian without making eye contact. The sun was brutal outside, and the asphalt shimmered as I crossed the lot. I got in the truck, shut the door, and let the heat soak in. Then I drove back to the shop. I still hadn't said a word to her, and I didn't plan to. About a year later, the sky cracked open over the desert. We rarely got rain, but when we did, it came fast and hard, like the clouds had been holding a grudge. I was sitting under the shop's tin overhang, watching puddles form in the gravel, when I saw headlights cut through the curtain of water. A beat-up silver sedan crawled into the lot, tires spitting mud. She stepped out before the engine stopped. Kara, soaked, no umbrella, hair stuck to her face. She looked older, shoulders slumped, skin paler, like whatever shine she used to carry had been scraped off one bad month at a time. She walked straight up without speaking. I stayed where I was, sitting on the crate by the tool chest, holding a chipped coffee mug full of rainwater I hadn't dumped out yet. She stopped about 5 feet from me and pulled a plastic folder from her purse, held it out with both hands like it weighed something. "I signed everything," she said. I took it, didn't flip through, just nodded and set it down beside me. "I'm not here to ask you to come back," she added. "Didn't think you were." She gave a sad little half smile, not smug, just tired. We stood there like that. Well, she stood, I sat, watching the rain hit the dirt in soft hisses. After a minute, she slid down the wall and sat on the concrete next to the roll-up door, knees tucked close. "I let Tyler turn me against you," she said, voice low. "He made everything feel like a joke, and I went along with it. I thought I was just having fun. But I was being cruel. You didn't deserve that." I didn't respond. The rain did all the talking I needed right then. She kept going anyway. "You were dependable. That used to be my favorite thing about you." She looked down at her knees. "But somewhere along the way, I started blaming you for my own boredom. Like you were holding me back. Even though you were the one holding everything together." I sipped from the mug, cold, metallic rainwater. Didn't break eye contact. "I didn't realize how much you were doing until you stopped doing it," she said, "and by then, I'd already made you the punchline." That one stung more than it should have. She wiped her nose on her sleeve, not bothering to hide it. "I just wanted you to hear it, that I know what I did. I'm not asking for anything." I nodded once. Not a thank you, not forgiveness, just acknowledgement. She stood up slow, her jeans soaked through, and walked back to the car without another word. Didn't wait for a reply, didn't ask for a hug. Just got in, closed the door, and drove off into the rain. I watched the taillights disappear down the dirt road until they flickered out completely. Then I picked up the folder, walked inside, and dropped it in the filing cabinet under a stack of invoices. For the first time, it didn't feel like running. It felt like something was finally over. The next afternoon, Natalie showed up in a dusty SUV with a busted taillight and a box of spare parts in the passenger seat. She didn't call first, just rolled up, parked crooked near the shop door, and popped the hatch. I stepped out and wiped my hands on a rag. "You lost? Or just low on gossip?" She grinned, dragging the box toward the workbench. Both. Natalie wasn't the kind of person to tiptoe around anything. Never had been. That's why I let her show up. No drama, no weird energy, just facts and sarcasm. She pulled a seat across from me and sat down, flipping the box open. Brake pads, filters, a few random fuses. "You're getting the good gossip today," she said, cracking a bottle of water and leaning back. "You want the full rundown? Hit me. Kara's bankrupt." I didn't blink. "She's renting some tiny duplex behind a laundromat. Works part-time at AutoZone now. No benefits, no car allowance. I guess she walks to work most days." I just nodded. "She looks rough, like reality finally caught up and sat on her chest." I didn't say anything, just sorted through the box. She kept going. "Her dad lost the shop. Debt ate it alive. He's doing roadside repairs now, out of a van with his logo slapped on the side and on crooked vinyl. Honestly, it's kind of sad." I tightened a bolt on a rusted caliper and didn't look up. "And Tyler?" She snorted. "Podcast tanked. Lasted maybe 12 episodes. No sponsors, no listeners. He moved back in with their mom." I raised an eyebrow. "Did he take the foam panels with him?" She cracked up. "Probably. Gotta stay professional." She waited a beat, then leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You want to know the best part?" I glanced at her. "Sure." At last year's Christmas dinner, the whole family went at it. Full-blown yelling match. Everyone blaming everyone else for why you left. I tossed a used filter into the bin. "They fight a lot. That's not new." "No, but this time they all agreed on one thing." She grinned. "They think you planned this." I finally looked up. "Planned what?" "This, the collapse, the fallout. Walking away at the exact moment everything depended on you. Like you were some evil genius pulling strings." I laughed once, dry and short. "They really think I'm that smart?" Natalie shrugged. "Honestly, they're terrified of you now. They act like you cursed the whole family." I leaned back on the stool, arms crossed. "I didn't curse anyone," I said. "I just left. 2 years after I walked out of that backyard, the garage was mine, paid off in full. The trailer too. Title in a lockbox under the bed. Business was steady. Locals came by for tire rotations, brake jobs, busted fan belts. Nothing glamorous, but I kept the lights on and the fridge stocked. No one breathing down my neck. No one cracking jokes with knives behind them. Then Erin showed up. She pulled up in a dented Ford with a cracked headlight and front brakes that sounded like metal screaming. Game warden, wore the uniform even off duty. Straightforward, tough, no small talk for the sake of it. "Can you take a look?" she asked, popping the hood like she'd done it 100 times. "Yeah," I said, sliding the creeper under the frame. "I'll give it to you straight." We didn't flirt. We talked. She came back a week later to check on the work. Brought fresh coffee and a breakfast burrito wrapped in tinfoil. "You always this reliable?" she asked, handing me the cup. I took a sip and shrugged. "I try," she smiled. "You're the kind of guy people can count on." It hit harder than it should have, but not in a bad way. We kept things slow, no pressure, no weird expectations. Dinner now and then, a walk out near the ridgeline behind the shop, conversation without landmines. She didn't need saving. I didn't need fixing. Sometimes I'd hear her truck rumble in after dark, and she'd knock once before stepping inside with a 6-pack and a bag of chips. No drama, no catch. I still thought about Kara now and then, not in the way that hurt, but in the quiet moments, usually when someone laughed with me instead of at me. Erin had this dry chuckle that made you feel like you earned it. I liked that. Most mornings I made my own coffee, drank it hot, sitting on the steps out back, watching the sky turn from navy to orange. I went to bed when I wanted, woke up without a headache, no phones buzzing with emergencies, no one freezing me out with silence. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and I was free.